What's going on, everyone? Welcome to Screen Sanctum. I'm Steve, and today I'm going to do a quick review on the Our Flag Means Death Season 2 and the characters within Season 2. I'm going to try to keep this short because I like talking to you guys about all of this stuff in live streams. We could go back and forth in depth on each character, plot points, all of that good stuff in an hour live stream or an hour and a half live stream. In this video, I want to keep to like 20 minutes to 30 minutes, and I know that's kind of tough. So with that being said, quick review of the season, and then I just have a list of the characters and some quick brief notes. Note, my goal in this video is not to enrage anyone, to get anyone mad. These are just my opinions. My goal here is to engage you all so that you go into the comments and you tell me what you think. So nothing I say is what I think is right. Just my interpretation of the season and the characters, and you all probably have different interpretations. So I want to just start it there. This is not to enrage anyone. I got my coffee because it's 8:45 in the morning. All right. So what did I think of season 2? Well, going into season 2, it did sound like the creators, David Jenkins and everyone, were kind of behind the 8 ball because they had to wrap up the cliffhanger of season 1, and then they're told they're not getting 10 episodes, they're getting 8 episodes, and they got to be 30 minutes each. So it was kind of tough, I think, going in to put out a quality season 2. But after watching season 1, I had no doubt they would be able to do it. And going into season 2, when I started episode 1, in my mind, I was saying, listen, they kind of got shortchanged here. They might have to rush through some things. So if there are any like plot holes or inconsistencies, chalk it up to just not given the time to complete their vision. There's only so much you could do because this is a big story. So I actually think they did a really great job with only being given 8 episodes. So basically, obviously, the main plot points of season 2 was Stede reuniting with his crew from the end of season 1. What would happen there? The biggest, obviously, is Ed and Stede. How are they going to get back together? What's going to happen with Ed since he turned back into Blackbeard? And then who's going to be the new big bad of season 3? Those are basically the questions I had going into it. Now, the first glaring omission was Stede reuniting with his crew. They only got 8 episodes. They really couldn't do anything about that. We didn't see him on the island, get there on the island. Like season 2 didn't pick up directly from Stede on his little dinghy waving and then getting to the island. So we don't see that. No big deal. I don't think there was time for that. Plot point 2, Ed and Stede, how are they going to get back together? This is funny because if you've been watching my season 2 reviews, after episodes 1, 2, and 3, I was I wouldn't say mad, just I guess more confused about how this would come to be, because I kept thinking, and I've said this in many videos, putting myself in the crew, like if I were there, not watching this show as a viewer, watching characters with their own agencies. Rather, I'm putting my morals into the show. So I was thinking that there's no way in the world anyone could forgive Ed for what he did. That was my mindset after the first 3 episodes of season 2. So I'm like, how are they going to do this? Like, why would they forgive him? He's a horrible person. Everyone's horrible. And that's how I thought. But after watching episodes 4 and 5, I kind of had a new perspective. And it was because of Lucius. And all of you, actually, too. But Lucius was big in episode 4 and 5. So, again, my main problem was I didn't think Ed was redeemable at all. But that's me. So we get to episode 4 and 5, and the key point for me here was that, and I think this was a choice specifically made by the creators, that 99% of the crew forgave Ed literally right off the bat. And, he stood up, he was in like that burlap sack, and he was just talking about kind of the things that he did wrong, etc. but one person called bullshit, and that was Lucius. So that made me feel good because I was like, okay, Lucius is kind of like me. No, this is not all right. And he pointed out that Ed didn't even say he was sorry. So I kind of feel like that scene, Lucius, was written for me and anyone who felt like me, because then it rang a bell in my head, or a light turned on in my head, that I am not in this crew. I am not on this ship. And when you talk about like apologies in general in real life, when it comes to you or me or anyone, they're different. So I've said this in a couple of episodes or a couple of videos, and I'll say it again. If you and I, whoever it is, we're doing something, another person does something to us, and we're both wronged in some way. And I don't want to give an example, like you know where I'm getting here, right? Next day comes, me and you were like, so-and-so is a dick. This is what they did. Unforgivable, right? Next day comes, that person comes back and apologizes to both of us directly, right? I am like, all right, that's cool. I appreciate your apology. Like, it was very hurtful, but it was sincere. Thank you so much. We're good. But you might say, no, that was bullshit. I am never going to forgive you. That's how the world works. It doesn't matter if I think Ed is unredeemable. If the members of the crew took that quote unquote apology and they were good with it, that's all I needed to know. And it took me a while to realize that. But Lucius really helped because he was not on that bullshit. Lucius did not accept the apology. And then it was cool because it goes into trauma where if something happens to you, an apology is not worth it. Does an eye for an eye help? So Ed's saying, you could throw me overboard. Lucius was like, oh, that's perfect. That'll help. It didn't help. But eventually they gained trust throughout the series and the season. And, Lucius forgave Ed, and eventually everyone was good. So that was big for me to get over that hurdle. And that was my own hurdle. It had nothing to do with the writing. So that was beautiful. The third part is the big bad of the season. This kind of seems kind of genius to me because this season really didn't have a big bad. Like, we got Prince Ricky in the very beginning, but they kind of made him like he was an inept fanboy of Stede and he just wanted to be a rich pirate too. We didn't know his motives literally until like the last episodes, episodes 7 and 8, I believe. So he wasn't really the villain of season 2. Then we had the Pirate Queen, new character, introduced as a quote unquote a nobody. And then it's revealed that she's a Pirate Queen. And after events that happen, we thought she might be the big bad of the season. She wasn't the big bad. Then we got introduced to Ned Low, Bronson Pinchot's character. He was only in it for like 5 minutes. When he first started, I thought he was going to be the big bad. So technically, season 2 didn't have one. Season 2 was basically, like everyone said, it was just a love story of two people. How are they going to get back together? But it was cool that Prince Ricky, introduced early, turns out that he's going to be the big bad of season 3, and that worked for me. So that was cool. There was a lot that I liked about this season. There was very little that I did not like. There were things maybe that I didn't agree with or confused me a little bit, and that's different than saying something sucks or something's not good, because there really wasn't anything in this season to me that I watched and while I was watching said, that's stupid. That doesn't make sense. I enjoyed everything, but there were things that I would have rather have seen. So what is something that was kind of odd to me? I guess one, and I'll probably get to it when I go through the characters briefly. So yeah, actually, let's just do that. I'll just go through the characters really quick, and hopefully this doesn't offend anyone. Again, I want to let everyone know that these brief notes that I have, like they're super brief because I want to keep this video super short, are just my thoughts, my immediate thoughts. I've only watched this series once and this season once. So obviously, when you watch something a second time, you gain perspective, you catch things you didn't catch. Like, I'm not good at background stuff and subtext. Like, you all tell me that. So whatever I say here, if I'm like way off base or you just have, more perspective you could give me, then let me know in the comments below. I'm kind of going to go, I don't even think I have a particular order. I thought I was going to do it from new characters to old, but I think I have some new ones mixed in on the bottom. So I'll just go really quickly. First, the Pirate Queen. She was an amazing character, is an amazing character. I'm glad that she survived and will be a big player in season 3 to help them defeat Prince Ricky. I really enjoyed how they introduced her as like she had that little stand and we were led to believe she really wasn't anyone. But I mean, if you watched the trailers and some of the pictures from before the season dropped, why would they be showing her so much if she really wasn't a main player? But it was cool in the sense of the story where, she was kind of like, haha, I'm actually this pirate queen when she pays Spanish Jackie to get the crew out in return for the Swede. So that was kind of cool. I loved how smitten she was by Ololande because I love Olu. He's my favorite and he deserves love, even though I initially wanted it to be with Jim. But what can you do? What else? Oh, the other thing I loved about her was how a lot of times when they show women characters or female characters, a lot of people write them as immediately emotional, like they're always mad, like if they're supposed to be pirates or things like that. And that is a trope. But with her, it was beautiful because we're introduced to her calm, collective. She just, she's selling her wares. Even when it's revealed she's a pirate queen, she doesn't fight to get the crew. She just pays them like, I'm rich. Just take this money. I'll handle them. She doesn't really go quote unquote crazy until the crew of the Revenge, she finds out that they mutinied. And then she's like, nah, this isn't good. So I liked her personality. Hand in hand with the pirate queen is her second mate, Auntie. When we were introduced to Auntie, I was like, this is going to be another great character. And I'll get into why, but I'll fast forward to the end. She kind of seems after the entire season that she's a replacement for Izzy. She was a very similar character with her pirate queen that Izzy was with Ed. Kind of like overprotective, wants them to do the pirate thing, always looking out for them. You could read into that Izzy was way more toxic, like in the years of them being pirates. But in like the course of season 2, there were very strong similarities, which is kind of sad to me because the first thing we see really with Auntie is that she's basically like a hound dog where she sniffs out the mutiny. Like she could sense it. She senses that something wrong happened and she's walking around like this aura. She could feel it. And she goes to the exact same place where they bash Ed's head in and she licks it and she has her proof. Like she was coming off as like a clairvoyant to me. And I was like, this is crazy because she was talking with Buttons about that whole thing, about turning into an animal. I was like, this is crazy. But then at the end, she doesn't even know that there's bombs in the clocks. That was one thing that didn't work for me, the ending. They built her up like such a badass character, and she is a badass character in general, but they built her up as some sort of supernatural, and it was great at the beginning. But if you're going to do that at the beginning, you can't at the end then have her be incompetent to not be able to tell that there's a bomb in a clock. So there's that. But I enjoyed her as a character. There were really no characters introduced that I didn't like. Number 3, Prince Ricky. I talked a little about him earlier. Came in, just thought he was going to be a silly guy wanting to be Stede Bonnet because he was rich. He wanted to be a pirate, but we find out later he didn't want to become a pirate to be a pirate. His motives were different. He wanted to become a pirate, get in the good graces with pirates to sabotage them and end piracy. And it looks like he did it because he blew up a shitload of ships with those clocks. Let's see what else I have written for him. It is actually kind of funny that he wants to be Stede Bonnet. And this, I could talk about this when I get to Stede, but in season 1, he fakes his death. And I think like the running gag in season 2, I feel like this is intentional, is that he doesn't care Because if you fake your death, even in these times, I believe they mentioned that like you can't do that. So he's supposed to be incognito, but everyone knows who he is, and he never is like, I'm not Stede Bonnet. Stede Bonnet's dead. Like he doesn't care. So that's a pretty funny running joke. All right, who do we have next? All right, we have Annie, Bonny, and Mary Reed. Again, two characters that were introduced amazingly. They were old friends of Ed, so that was cool. We have familiarity there. They were very interesting. I was very intrigued, but again, we only have 8 episodes, so I was kind of scared that we weren't really going to see much of them. I thought maybe they would be characters we see, something happens, they come in at the end, to help. That didn't happen, so basically it feels like they were just used to serve the plot of getting Ed and Stede in the same place so they could talk through their differences. And that's basically all they did, while also kind of being a metaphor for love. Like, you guys have some problems and you think you can't work it out. Well, like, look at us. We're kind of crazy. I get stabbed in my back for love. The other one burns down the house for love. Like, they're just showing them that love could come in many forms. We work so you could work. And that was basically the main point of Annie and Mary. And it's sad to me because they're great actors and they were great characters. Like, they did a hell of a job. I just wish we would have saw them more. Unfortunately, we didn't have enough time to. What do we got? Ned Low. Ned Low, for only having 5 minutes of screen time, Bronson Pinchot. Dude, I haven't seen him in a lot of stuff lately. I know he is in a lot. He's not just from Perfect Strangers and Beverly Hills Cop. He's been in stuff, and he's a really good actor. But he was terrifying when he came on screen. And it was funny, that Blackbeard broke his record, and that was the reason that he was kind of like coming for him. But the way he just acted that part, I honestly thought he was going to be the big bad. That's how good he was. And it was kind of funny that he becomes Stede's first real pirate kill because he makes him walk the plank. But is he dead? I don't know. He could be, but I would not be sad if we saw Ned Low again next season because 1, he seemed like a great character, and 2, Bronson Pinchot was an amazing actor. All right. Next is one of the biggest characters of the season to me, who had one of the largest arcs to me in the series. And I know this season, the main arc is really Ed, Stede, and Izzy. And with an ensemble cast this big, it's hard to give other people like huge arcs. But Lucius had a huge one. Number 1, his introduction shocked the shit out of me. I really did not anticipate seeing him. I think it was the 2nd episode. When they announced it was going to be 3-2-2-1, I said, listen, we're not getting Lucius in the first 3 episodes. Probably a tease to him at the end of episode 3, so we have to wait a freaking week and get him in like episode 4, mid-season, and then he's, good to go. It was so crazy. And this is one of the reasons why I appreciated how fast the season went, how fast the pacing was, because we got to the Pirate Queen, we got to her bringing on the Revenge as crew, and then I didn't even catch it when she said, oh, we have one other male member of the ship. I didn't even think of Lucius. And if you go back to my reaction, my face, I like screamed. I was so happy when we saw Lucius. Oh my God, Return of the King, I think is what I said. Well, he definitely had one of the best arcs for everything that I talked about earlier with Blackbeard, meaning when Blackbeard apologized, he didn't just say, oh, okay, we're good, let's go. He showed trauma. He had to get over a lot of trauma internally, and it didn't take him one little speech to do it. He had that whole talk with Stede about saying everything that you did led to this happen. Like, every bad thing that happened to me is your fault. Like, you could agree that Stede had no fault. It was all Izzy's fault. They share fault. It doesn't really matter. But in the case of Lucius, that's how he feels. Like, I'll talk more about this when I get to Stede. But fault is really in the eye of the beholder. It's like an action happens which causes something else to happen. The initial action may not have been intentional, but it still caused this. So if that never happened, this would have never happened. So fault is a fine line. But Lucius, man, oh, I love Lucius. And then Black Pete, another character who's amazing when he's on screen. Unfortunately, he didn't really have a huge arc this season, but he was there to be the rock for Lucius because he said it well, where he was like, Black Pete was mad because all Lucius was harping on was that he was almost killed. Black Pete almost killed me, pushed me over the edge. I almost died, which that was our true feeling. He's like, yeah, Lucius, man, Ed tried to kill you. Like, he didn't give a shit. But Black Pete, being the loving partner that he is, takes it into perspective. And he's kind of frustrated with, I guess, all the negativity, but I could see the negativity. But he says the line, all you concentrate on is like almost being dead. I never hear you talk about living, meaning, yeah, you almost died. Ed almost killed you, but he didn't. Like, you're alive. He's kind of saying, you know, you need to get over it maybe. And that's a little much, but they trust each other. They're partners. I won't argue with the writing because the writing is so good, but Pete is always there. And Lucius and Pete, to me, are the couple that Ed and Stede wish they could be up until this point, because they're kind of rocky. They're not like married yet, but they talk. When they have problems, they talk it out. They don't just sit silent and just let it linger and hope it goes away. Like, they're really vocal with each other, and I love that about Lucius and Black Pete. Beautiful. All right. So next I'm going to talk about Jim, Archie, Olu, Roach, Frenchie, Wee John, and Buttons and the Swede. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 characters. To me, again, the actors who play them are amazing. They act the shit out of their characters. In the sense of season 2, they really didn't have an arc to me. They were just, you know, great characters, background characters. They were the crew. Like, that's their job, basically, is to be the crew. They're technically not main characters, but they did their jobs well. So let me just go through it really quick, because Jim, Archie, and Olu are basically their own little arc, if you will. So we get introduced to Archie. Great character, amazing pirate, badass fighter. She is everything you want in a pirate. And she also has a sweet side. Actually, correct me, I'm not sure if they mention in the show if Archie is they or she. So I'm not doing this intentionally when I refer to Archie as she, because I think they are playing a she in the show. So yeah, Archie she'll slice your neck, cut your hands off, kick the shit out of you, and then be so tender afterwards with her lover, which looks like it's going to be Jim. So this kind of not pained me, but I was kind of sad, because going into season 2, I just couldn't wait for the reunite. I couldn't wait for Jim and Olu to reunite, because they're a couple that I wanted to see together exclusively. But after watching the first few episodes of season 2, you could see that Jim's personality is they can be poly, and Archie can be poly. You could see that just by their personality and the way they act, that they wouldn't really care. They would love it. They would love to add more people to the mix. But Olu, the way he's written, so sweet, so tender, so pure, I always would kind of compare him to a time traveler, like someone who came from the future into pirate times, and he just seemed like a one-person man. I never saw him, Oluwande, as being in a poly relationship. And that doesn't mean he can't be. I'm just saying, from what I was given and his personality traits, I thought that it would just be Olu and Jim. So I was sad when Jim hooked up with Archie, but I was happy that they were honest. And Jim is so comfortable with Olu and vice versa as best friends that Jim told him as soon as it happened, I kissed another person, and she let me see her boobs. Like, it was funny, and Olu wasn't mad. He was like, cool. Like, you're open and honest. This is something that best friends tell each other. So from there, that's when I got the hint that they were just going to be friends. And I know there's a lot of discourse about this online, about maybe baiting us as the fans that they were going to be poly. You all could give me your perspective on that, but I still always wanted Jim and Olu together, but Jim has Archie now, and Olu has his pirate queen. So that they're both happy and they both get to still be best friends. And who knows, down the line, maybe they have a huge orgy. They're pirates. They could do whatever they want. All right, who's next? We have Roach, another character, a great character, great side character, great actor. Every time Roach is on screen, I'm captivated because they do such a great job with that character. But season 2, really, there was no arc to Roach's character, to be honest. Just overall, great acting, a funny character, and a great job. Frenchie, he had a tiny bit more of an arc than some of the other background characters, only because in the beginning, when Ed was torturing Izzy, Frenchie was the one that was given second mate. So he had a lot of responsibility. And I thought maybe, where are they going to head with this? If maybe Ed and Stede don't get back this season, throughout the course of season 2, Frenchie's going to learn how to be a second mate. But that never happened. He was only second mate for a little while until Ed figured out that when he told Frenchie to kill Izzy, he didn't kill him. So he kind of had to do it himself. But again, Frenchie is an amazing character. Just not a big arc for them this season. And again, this isn't to enrage anyone, but we have 3 main characters and we have about 10 or 11 characters that are background but are always on screen. So it's hard to give them all like these huge seasonal arcs. After Frenchie is Wee John. Again, great character. Had an awesome costume as Calypso at that huge party they threw. The makeup was amazing. The actor is amazing. He put his all into that character for whenever Wee John was on screen. But again, there really wasn't a season 2 arc for that character. Again, not a bad thing. Just telling it how I see it. If you see it differently, let me know. Okay, after Wee Johns, we have Buttons. So Buttons, this one actually did kind of sadden me. So Buttons in season 1, in regards to Stede's ship and crew, Buttons was really, to me, the only pirate that Stede had. Like, he was a perfect second mate. He knew everything about piracy, very competent. He would relay information back to Stede, like the mutiny in episode 1. He told him mutinies are brewing. Like, he was a great pirate. So season 2 comes and we get the inkling in the beginning that he's going to try to morph himself into a seagull, which is great. And we get a little bit of Buttons, like when Stede is chasing Ed and they run into Anny and Mary. Buttons is there. He's at the house and all that stuff. But then he does actually turn into a freaking seagull. So that, like, his arc was just quick. It just happened so quick. So now it's not finished yet. He's kind of in the middle of his arc now. He turned into a seagull. Will he turn back? And at the end, we kind of get the hint that he will when he lands on the tombstone. So I think everyone can't wait for Buttons to come back. Hopefully he does. But what saddens me is because he was such an integral part of the original Revenge as a pirate, I feel like he should have been in more of season 2 because he would have been such a big help for all the knowledge that he has. But what can you do? Buttons is great though. The Swede, another guy that I saw on screen. I did not realize how jacked this guy was because Spanish Jackie loves her husbands. Sexified the Swede, and that was kind of funny. Obviously, his big role in the season was to be traded to Spanish Jackie. And that was pretty much it. We didn't really see Swede again until the end of the season. And Swede really didn't do much besides, I mean, he fought in that bar fight, but we didn't get to really see much of Swede. So not much of an arc for him besides now being another one of Spanish Jackie's husbands. Speaking of Spanish Jackie, introduced amazingly in season 1, and then season 2 kind of in the background. She's more used to set up Prince Ricky because Prince Ricky comes in And I feel like his plan was to get caught in episode 2 or 3 when, he's trying to leave his calling card and Spanish Jackie catches him. But the thing that I don't understand is, why would he have risked his life? I don't think, that's why I feel like, oh, did he do that on purpose? But then if he did do it on purpose, he could have gotten killed. But then Spanish Jackie cut off his nose, put it in the nose jar, as she does. But then she let him go, which was kind of weird. Like, in hindsight, I was wondering why she did that. And again, I only watched it once. When the Pirate Queen paid to get the crew free from Spanish Jackie, was it implied that Prince Ricky was with them and he was freed as well? I don't remember. I think that might be the reason. So again, my memory is foggy from watching it once. Just correct me if I'm wrong, or let me know if I'm right. But it's kind of coming back. I think he was released with the crew. So the last person that I have, and if I missed anyone, let me know, is Fang. So Fang might have had just as little screen time as a lot of the other background characters, maybe less. But Fang had one of the best scenes to put Ed in perspective in the entire season. And that was the scene where he was fishing and he wanted Ed to come catch fishies with him. And you think it's all just like fun and games, like, oh, this guy tortured you and tormented you when he was going through the shit that he was going through. He just barely apologized. And you're like, sure, like just hop on the ship. But it made sense to me because Fang is so pure like Olu. And it just feels like he had stuff on his chest that he wanted to get off in regards to he and Ed's friendship, or whatever you want to call it, in the years of them being pirates. And it's kind of cool because you get two sides of a different coin, to be honest, when they're talking about their reactions together. On one hand, Ed is like, oh man, we had some great times together. Remember all the fun things we used to do? I used to chase you around. We used to laugh and have a good time, and it was happy. Like, that's what Ed genuinely thinks about the games he used to play with Fang. And Fang is like, that's not how I remember it. You scared the shit out of me. I was terrified. I wasn't laughing. I was screaming. I was afraid of you. And that was kind of a wake-up call for Ed, like, damn, that's how I was. So I really, really enjoyed that scene. I think it only would have worked with Fang because we are established that Fang has been a part of Ed's crew for a while. And it was needed from him, I think, because it wouldn't have worked with Izzy because Izzy kind of enjoyed that side of Ed and Blackbeard. So, yeah, Fang is great. I love him. Let me just see what else I have. Doobie-doobie-doo. Yep, that's all I have for him. So now we have the trio, Ed, Stede, and Izzy. Obviously the biggest arcs of the entire series, the entire season, because it was geared around them. So we'll start, obviously, the main point of the show is to get Ed and Stede back together. And going into it, Izzy just wanted Ed to be Ed. But as we saw, Izzy pushed Ed too far because he just wanted Blackbeard back. And in layman terms, it cost him his leg. It cost him his sanity. And in the end, it cost him his life. So going back to saying how quickly they got back together, even though it was fast, they did the writing in a way where it worked for me because Ed didn't see Stede and like, oh, my love is back. Let's go. Like, they didn't do that, which was good because that would have been one option to rush it, was to just no conflict. And the one thing that I really wanted was for Ed to have to kind of not pay for his crimes, but just, be a man and acknowledge how bad he was. And then I needed, him to apologize for everyone to accept it. And besides Lucius, but eventually everyone did. So it was good. So we have, them getting back. The whole dream sequence when he was dying was great. I'm not good at catching stuff, but I didn't think that was a dream sequence at first until he started killing, the person in his dream who was himself, and they kept coming back to life. And I was like, okay, this can't be real. So that was pretty cool how Stede basically wished him back to life. Stede, it kind of disappointed me a little bit, and maybe disappointed is not the right word, but when they're on the Pirate Queen's ship and they're like, oh, there's a ship, it's the Revenge. I was like, oh, yes, the crew. Like, my first reaction was, oh, we're going to see the crew again. But Stede's first reaction was, Ed is on the ship. So that kind of, I don't know. I just wish that at that moment in the show, he would have been more like, oh, my crew, you know, and then jumped overboard, got there, and then he's calling for Ed. That would have made a little bit more sense to me, but what are you going to do? I don't write these. But yeah, they have their fight. They don't want to talk to each other. They get back together. They apologize to each other. After seeing or being in the home of Anny and Mary, they realize if they work, like, we could definitely work. So they're good again. And that leads into the scene where Buttons turns into a freaking seagull when Stede is going to find the ship again, leaves Ed alone with Buttons. What else could I say about them? Again, I'm going really quick. I don't want this to be in depth. I'm already at 40 minutes. What I wanted to say was going into season 2 also, my prediction was that Ed and Stede would not be back as a couple in season 2, but if they were, it would be like the final moments of the last episode, because what I thought was going to happen was Stede was going to try, but Ed was really not going to have any of that. And what was going to happen was something bad was going to happen at the end of the season where that would bring them together to talk actually as friends. Then they would have to fight alongside each other, and then they could rekindle their love. I think I was like 30% right on this. I was wrong about when they would start talking again. That was really early. And then they were basically back together by episode, I think it was 4, right? So they were good by mid-season. I was wrong about that. But I did not anticipate in episode 7, Ed kind of breaking up with Stede again and leaving. So because that happened, I was right that a bad thing was going to happen to bring them back together. Because it was kind of cool that it was kind of like a family thing where you feel like you outgrow where you are and you want to grow as a person. So by episode 6, everyone was like, we love you, Stede, but there's other things we want to do. And everyone's like, bye, we're going here, bye. We're leaving the Revenge. And it's kind of sad, like, damn, Ed broke up with them. And now everyone on the crew wants to leave, and now Stede is all alone. He must have felt like shit. But then all of the grandfather clocks blow up, so everyone has to come together again and fight. So starting in season 3, they're all going to be together fighting Prince Ricky. Will they stay together again? Season 3 is supposed to be the final season, so maybe they battle it out, and then they really all go on their way. But at the end, we see Ed and Stede, they open up an inn like Ed was talking about in his dream before. Stede was able to wake him up with the power of love. So they are both on land with a fixer-upper inn while everyone else is on the Revenge right now chasing Prince Ricky. So does that mean they're not pirates anymore? Or does that mean like, we're going to do this, you all go find this guy, and when you do, just let us know and we'll be there. That's kind of what I took from it. They're just like, I'm an old pirate. I don't want to do this recon anymore. You young pirates could do it. When we need to fight, come and get me. Last but not least is Izzy. So I know Twitter has been on fire since the finale, and everyone has different opinions, and that is fine. We just need to be civil about them. Whether you like Izzy, always liked him, then hated him, then didn't mind him. That was me. He was such a great character in season 1 that I hated him for all he was. And my prediction was that in season 2, he was going to die. If you go back to my videos, leading into the season. That's just how I felt, because when you are living the pirate life and there are wars and fights and swashbuckling and swords, and someone's got to die. That's the one thing. I know this is a fantasy show, it's a love story, but only the bad guys die, which is fine. You want the bad guys to die. Sometimes to tell a story, you need the bad guy to win, you know? So I was like, all right, someone's going to die. I didn't feel like they would kill any of the main characters because they were so lovable. And everyone, like their personalities, they all have such specific personalities and everyone just loves them. I think there would have been a major uproar if any of them would have died. So I was like, it's got to be Izzy. So I was like, it would be Izzy because no one would really care if a bad character died. I never would have anticipated how they would have written his arc to go from someone that I hated to someone that I kind of didn't want to die initially, but I felt like he had to. The only problem I have is with the way that it happened. So as the season was drawing on, I thought, okay, Izzy is just going to die in battle because someone's going to have to die in battle. I thought maybe he would do something to protect Ed, which would have been cool because in the beginning of the season, he was being tortured by Ed. Obviously, he kept biting off toes and then he shot him in the leg. So I said, oh, it would be a great arc if, you know, the last thing he did was they made amends during the season and he risked his life for Ed. Like, we're good. Then I was like, oh, maybe he'll risk his life for Stede since they were rivals the entire season 1. And even the beginning of season 2, Stede kind of really didn't appreciate Izzy or didn't like Izzy at all, even though Izzy was making small attempts to kind of be the quote unquote bigger man, to apologize, to try to fix Ed. Stede wasn't at that point yet. So it would have been cool also if he risked his life, saved Stede, and they just had like a moment where they just like winked at each other. It was like, okay, we're good now. That didn't happen. You guys have to tell me because, again, I've watched this once. I may have missed it. When they were bringing Prince Ricky out, you know, they were all dressed as the soldiers and they had, you know, they were guiding him. Izzy was holding him from behind to bring him. Did they just let him keep his gun holstered? Because I didn't see him steal anyone's gun. So that is kind of odd. Izzy is like one of the best second mates of all time to one of the most famous pirates of all time. I'm like, there's no way Izzy would have guided this guy and let him keep his gun on his person. There's no way he would have did that. And on the other hand, I didn't see Prince Ricky like turn and steal Izzy's gun. But then the way that they killed Izzy to me was bullshit. Like, I felt like they didn't know what they wanted to do. Like, they knew Izzy needed to die, but they couldn't come up with a creative way because it was so weird. It just looked like, to me, it looked like a reshoot. It was just like, oh, look over there, bang. And then he shoots. Like, it meant nothing to me. It was just a scene. And I was like, oh, like it shocked me at first. But when I thought about it, I just said to myself, this is odd. Like, he did not even do anything. There was no reason in that moment. It was just, okay, this guy somehow still had a gun on him, turned around and shot one person and no one else had guns. Like, they just kind of massacred the British, and the British had weapons with them, but they didn't take the weapons. But then at the end, they're shooting back. Like, it was just a weird scene to me, that ending. But even though I felt like Izzy was going to die, that wasn't really how I thought it would happen. And then at the end, long story short, to wrap it up, Ed and Stede have their inn, and we see they bury Izzy kind of like at the beginning of, not steps, but the pathway to get to the inn. And then we see buttons land on him, which we believe to be buttons. There's no reason they would put a random seagull flying in to land on Izzy's tomb if it wasn't Buttons. So that's kind of the cliffhanger for me. Will Buttons return in human form, and will he be able to switch back and forth? So there we have it. Right now I'm at like 50 minutes. I think I went like 15 minutes too long. So as I said, this was just something brief. I really just wanted to hit on each character really quickly because I do want to have a live stream where we could talk about this in more depth, go into each character maybe for 5-10 minutes and also hear what you have to say about each character. So again, all in all, season 1 of Our Flag Means Death to me was great. Season 2 was great for what they were constrained to do, because I feel like if they were given 10 episodes and a little bit more time, it could have been even better. So I can't put the shortcomings of the season on the creators because they had no choice. It had to be 8 episodes. They had to rush through things. They had to leave certain things out. So things that maybe I wanted to see or you wanted to see, we couldn't see them because we didn't have the time. So again, 50 minutes talking about everything. How am I ending this? I loved season 2. Did everything happen the way I thought it was going to happen? No. Did everything I wanted to happen? No. But we are not writing these shows. We have no say in these shows. We have to review them on what we get. If you did not want Izzy to die, you cannot say this show sucks because he did. You just have to get over that. If there was any character you wanted to see dead or alive or have more screen time, that's fine. That's something you wanted. But you can't base your review of a show on you not getting what you wanted. I guess with Izzy, I'm kind of being a hypocrite because I'm saying his death was shitty, but that's not hindering me saying that this season was amazing. It's just, I think they did a horrible job with his death and it could have been better, but that's what they chose and the season was still really good. So anyways, what did you all think of Our Flag Means Death season 2? What did you think of my review? Do you agree with anything? I hope you disagree with a lot because I want to see your comments below so we could talk about this. And then we need to coordinate a live stream so we could talk about all of this together. That's all I got. So like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace, crew.